Basically, the economic survey this time of 21-22 has come in one volume discussing various aspects from the economy point of view and what the government has actually done to support the economy. So we know that this was a difficult year because of the COVID, and therefore the government has discussed in detail how they have been able to support, what kind of strategy and approach they adopted. To start with, they had this year's economic surveys has been compiled by the principal economic advisor, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, with his team of advisors. Usually the economic survey is always done by the team of the chief economic advisor. However, the previous chief economic advisor completed his term in December 2001, and only recently, 2 days back, the new chief economic advisor has been appointed. So this time the economic survey has been led by the principal economic advisor. So I was talking about the approach that the government has taken. They have taken a name also, which we will discuss ahead, which kind of approach. It's a famous approach that they have used. However, their focus had been on a four-pronged approach or point that they were taken. One was the short-term support to the economy. So because of COVID, the economy has been hit, right? So there was a very important need to support the economy in the short term, to help it. It's like it was in the ICU, and you had to do everything to save it. So there was a lot of short term support that was provided in the economy, and especially to the vulnerable sections. The second aspect that the government took care of was keeping an firm eye on the medium term fiscal stability, right? So although the government was supporting, but they kept in mind that they don't have to lead to a problem which was going to be long term in nature from the fiscal prudence point of view. So fiscal stability was kept in mind while taking the decisions last year to support the economy. Then a lot of structural and supply side reforms and reforms had been brought in to support the economy. And last, there was also attention to the processes reforms, right? So the overall approach, as per this economic survey that is mentioning, has been short-term support to the vulnerable sections, especially keeping in mind that you have to maintain the fiscal stability. So this was something which has been highlighted by the economic survey also, again, this time. So we can say they don't have a theme per se on the economic survey cover like this there was in the last year, but there is an underlying theme of process reforms, which is the last leg of the four prongs structure that I was talking about. What we mean by that is simplifying and smoothing of the processes of activities where the government's presence as a facilitator or regulator is necessary. So the government simplify and help in the running of the economy, the engine of the economy, and only come as a facilitator wherever required. So that is the underlying theme that is being brought here. So moving on to the main highlights that have been given in the economic survey related to the state of economy. So these are the numbers which are discussed mostly, and mostly they are based on the first advanced estimates also that they come out, right? So they have given related to the GDP growth, the fiscal deficit. So these figures basically will make more sense even tomorrow when we see what actually the government states about the fiscal deficit for the coming year 22-23. They have also talked about the inflation, that CPI inflation has actually started to come down if we compare to last year. And that has been because of a lot of supply side reforms that the government had taken. The forex reserves of India has been at an all-time high, and in November actually we were the fourth economy to have the largest number of forex reserves. And they've also talked about the agriculture, industrial and services sector. So the key numbers that we can actually remember here is related to the GDP growth, which is similar to what the first advance estimates had also been given, that is at 9.2%. Now, how this 9.2% is building up from the other three sectors is agriculture, which is expected to grow at 3.9% in 21-22, the industrial sector, which is growing at 11.8%, and the services sector, which is expected to grow at 8.2%. So these are the sector-wise growth which will culminate into a 9.2% growth for 21-22. For and if we talk from the GVA, gross value added side, then at basic prices the growth is estimated at 8.6% for 21-22. The GDP growth for next year, 22-23, this has been projected to lie between 8 to 8.5%, right? So that is there, one very simple question I am asking. Maybe you can write in the comments box that if this year we are growing by 9.2% when we were actually hit by COVID again, the second wave also, and now the third wave also kind of has been there, then why next year we are saying, when there will be no COVID impact, growing at a rate which is lower, looking lower than 9.2%. So maybe you can add or write about that in the comments box. Forex reserves, as I was telling, we hit a high of $633.6 billion in December, and that time we were the fourth largest holder of forex reserves in the world. If we talk about the export sector, the international business, the total exports have been also showing good growth of 16.5%, while the imports have grown by 29.4%. A major reason for this has been the crude and the prices rising very sharply also. So given this, but we are still not in a very bad position. Our current account deficit is expected in the first half actually was 0.2%. So if you will remember, last year when the economic survey had come out, that was the first time, I think after almost 17 years, when our current account had come into a surplus. Right, so last year we were once after a really long time had come into a surplus. This year in the first half we have a moderate deficit, I would say, of 0.2% of GDP. Yes, Aditi, it is because of the base effect. So if we last year actually, if we talk about 2021, actually there was negative growth of GDP, right? So because of that, so if you can see here, if I go back, this we had actually declined by 7.3%. So base effect had led to 9.2, but now because we have a positive base, the growth is the growth rate in absolute terms is looking lesser, but it's only because of the base effect. It's not like the economy is not growing. Right? If we look at the sectoral contribution of different sectors in our GVA, our agriculture sector is estimated to contribute around 18.8% to the GVA this year, in the current year, while industry will contribute 28.2%. So there has been an increase from the industry side, and our services almost similar at 53%. So there is an improvement in the contribution by the industry expected in 21-22. Right, so here basically the manufacturing sector, government has taken a lot of steps to support manufacturing also in the country, which has been one major reason driving this upgrade in the contribution. So the economic survey is also talking about these strategies, the barbell strategy, certain safety nets, and the agile approach taken by the government. So when I was talking in the beginning about the four pronged strategy or the four-pronged approach that the government has stated, it is somewhere fitting into these strategies or the terms that they have used. So agile framework, as we talk about the agile word, is how you quickly respond to certain changes outside, right? So the agile framework basically here is you analyze the entire outcomes, say over a longer period, say over a year, and then plan the entire. The economy had to be saved, and therefore the government was analyzing in short durations whatever steps they are taking and accordingly adjusting. So that is the agile framework that they have talked about. Yes, Vikram, we will be discussing ahead, in different parts, small segments, right? How they have structured. First, they're discussing about the economy, then about the fiscal aspect, then the monetary aspect. So that is how we will be discussing in this session also. Right? So what the government was doing was continuously monitoring a lot of high frequency indicators. So what they have mentioned this as high frequency indicators. Yeah, the high frequency indicators here, they consisted of GST collection, e-way bills and GST collections to show the economic activity in the country. Similarly, power consumption, the movement in the power consumption, the mobility indicators, the digital payments that were happening, and even they have this time used satellite photographs to monitor how the economy is progressing. Right, cargo movements, highway toll collection. So these are some of the factors, the high frequency indicators that they have used to continuously monitor and then come out with constantly incremental adjustments in policies in the address of the government to help the economy. So the various safety nets, so there's a long list of safety nets that they have mentioned. I have only shown a glimpse of few of them, not all of them. So these were the safety net measures that the government had taken. So it's in a very nice manner the entire year. So this section actually, I think it runs into 2 pages only in this table format. It is a good way to summarize all the types of schemes, all the type of COVID related measures that the government has taken to support the economy. Here, from your examination point of view, if I talk from the examination point of view, the various schemes that they have named, right, these should be important schemes, of course, in addition to the schemes that they will be talking about tomorrow in the budget, right? So they will be important for your examination. You should know each scheme's name, what are the key features, and tomorrow when the budget comes out, what has been the allocation towards these different schemes in the current budget. So from your examination point of view, this is something that you have to keep in mind. So Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, then One Nation One Ration Card, then the Ujjwala Yojana. Right. So as I said, this is not the complete list. This is only few measures that I have shown here. Manrega, then Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Rojgar. So in a very nice way, they have summarized all the safety net measures or all the support that the government has provided in form of different schemes, in form of different transfers, money, monetary, non-monetary reforms format that they have provided to the people. Okay. Before we move ahead to the next segment, as I said, this time the economic survey, as always, there are different segments that they have talked about. So the next segment that we will be talking about is the fiscal development. How the fiscal part of the government has moved related to their tax collections, their expenditure and all. But before I move to that, I will give you a glimpse of some type of MCQs, not some direct from the economic survey and some indirectly dependent on the economic survey, that will be helpful for your preparation, that you should be looking at. So what all will be those type of MCQs? So after every segment I will discuss a few of them with you. So say for example, the first one here, the economic survey is talking about the economic growth and has estimated the GDP at 9.2%. What is the growth rate that has been given by IMF in its recent World Economic Outlook? So if you can tell the answer in the comments box, that will be great. Please keep writing. So IMF had also in very recently come out with its latest World Economic Outlook, right? So there can be questions, static questions like which organization releases the World Economic Outlook. Okay, so that is IMF. This time another important part related to this was that this World Economic Outlook was the last one that was given by the chief economist of IMF, Professor Geeta Gopinath, right? So maybe you can tell me who is now the chief economist at IMF, right? And Miss Geeta Gopinath has got another position in IMF, which has specially been created. It's the first time she has been appointed at that position. So these static kind of information around when you are looking at reading some other information can also be helpful in your exams as financial awareness kind of questions, right? So yes, IMF has estimated the growth at 9% for the year 21-22, and for the next year they have estimated India to grow at 7.1%. Okay, so India has estimated at 8 to 8.5%. IMF in its recently released World Economic Outlook, they have estimated at 7.1%, and this is for 22-23. Okay, so for 21-22 it is 9%, and by India and by the government. Okay, so Aditi and Vishal, you are correct. Gyanendra and Akshat, I hope now you will remember that. Okay, so always read the question carefully, what is being asked, right? The question is not asking what the growth has been estimated for 22-23. If that was asked, then we could have said the first. However, here we are asking what IMF has estimated for 21-22 for India. Okay, so some other questions that I've asked, you can keep writing in the comments box. The economic survey for 21-22, which is talking about certain approach. So which approach has the government adopted to counter the COVID-19 situation? Okay, so it is the bubble approach that they have taken, which is basically an agile approach where you are balancing two ends. So bubble approach is actually a form in the financial world. It's a kind of a portfolio strategy also that is used to balance two extreme ends. So here the vulnerable society at one end, you had to support the vulnerable sections, and on the other hand also looking at the fiscal stability. So that was used. So that is the bubble approach which the government has used to address the COVID-19 situation. Okay, moving ahead, which of the following provides the measure of the general price inflation in an economy? So this is now a conceptual question related to national income. So national income is a topic in a lot of government exams like RBI, SEBI, PFRDA, and it is also can be asked as banking aware, for exams in the banking space. So this is a conceptual question, not directly related to the economic survey release. However, the idea is to make you, give you a glimpse of the type of questions you should be preparing, both from the factual information given in the economic survey and also conceptual or, current affairs related kind of news that you should be aware or you should keep your eyes on. Okay, so yes, it is the GDP deflator. Okay, so it is a kind of a measure of inflation. Okay, so yeah, moving ahead. What is the share of the industry in GVA which has been estimated for 21-22? So is it 18.8%, 28.2%, 25.9%, 20.2% or 53%? Okay, so the correct answer is 28.2%. Okay, so this is the contribution which is expected from the industry, which is rising from 25.9% as we were discussing, right? So the contribution of industry is expected to increase in 21-22, sorry, from 20.2% to 18.8%. So this is for agriculture. And this is the contribution by the services sector. So 18.8% is for agriculture. The industry has been asked. Industry is 28.2%. Another question, who is the current chief economic advisor? So when I started the session, I told you that this year the economic survey work has been led by the principal economic advisor, who has recently been appointed as the chief economic advisor. Okay, so Dr. V. Anant Nageswaran has been appointed as a chief economic advisor. Before him, Dr. K.V. Subramaniam was the chief economic advisor, and he completed his tenure in December 2021 of 3 years. Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal is actually the principal economic advisor who along with his team has actually brought out the economic survey this year. Next question, which of the following is not a part of the forex reserves? So the economic survey does tell about the forex reserves, that we have hit the a peak of the high point of 633 billion approximately this year, which was the fourth largest kind of reserve that any country has in the world. So what actually constitutes forex reserves? Okay, and if you can answer another question, where are the forex reserves maintained? Who maintains the forex reserves of India? Right, so basically silver is not a part of the forex reserves. There are 4 components in the forex reserves. Your first one is your foreign currency assets. That means the assets in the form of different foreign currencies. Then there is gold. Then there is special drawing rights. Okay, these are issued by IMF. And then there is a reserve tranche also maintained by IMF. Okay, so now if I go back a little more, this may be important for your RBI exam and upcoming SEBI exam. If I go back a little more, in August 2021, IMF had actually increased the share of, or the amount of SDR's allocation for all the countries, member countries, and also for India. So also find out that news and prepare for that, because this is not done on a regular basis. Increasing the allocations of SDR, special drawing rights, is not a a very frequent activity. So this activity was done somewhere around August 2021. So this is another area that you should prepare for if you are preparing for any kind of upcoming competitive exams. Akshit, yes, that is correct. And that RBI, the forex reserves are maintained by RBI, the Central Bank of India. So in our country it is RBI. Okay. Next question. Under the PM Kisan scheme, the government provides assistance of. Right, so this is one of the schemes, as I was telling when I was showing you the safety nets or the various steps that the government has taken. It's a very, very good summary that they have put in the economic survey in 2 pages in a table format. They have put in all the kind of steps that they have taken. So the various kinds of schemes that they have mentioned, in addition to what we will see tomorrow in the budget, you should be well aware of the key features related to those schemes. What are the allocations that will be done in tomorrow's budget? So these kind of information you should prepare for the all the exams, the competitive exams that you are preparing for. So this was only for example purpose, that you should be preparing such kind of conceptual or static information related to schemes also. So yes, it is 6,000 per annum, which is given in 3 installments to the people. Okay, so this is given in 3 installments, and last year the government had actually given these installments ahead, also front loaded them to help people meet their expenses due to adverse effect of COVID-19. Okay, so a lot of such questions, both conceptual, static, plus data related from economic survey, is how you should be reading when you are reading the economic survey. Every number mentioned in economic survey may not be very relevant for you to remember each and every number per se. Now moving ahead to the next aspect, the fiscal development, right? So the next chapter in the economic survey talks about the fiscal development, which is talking in detail about how the government is going to earn its revenue and the expenses point, right? Which tomorrow will become much more important when the budget comes out. So for this aspect, rather than trying to remember each of the numbers that have been mentioned in the economic survey, this chapter from figures point of view is not that important. It will be more important what the fiscal numbers are given by the government tomorrow in the budget. So I will not discuss these numbers in too much detail. What you can see is that there has been a considerable growth in the major direct and indirect taxes in the April to November time period for 2021. So if we compare to the last year, this year there has been a considerable growth in the tax receipts of the government, and also the non-tax receipt in the form of disinvestment. The government is very hopeful to push through the LIC disinvestment IPO this year, also in this current fiscal year itself. Okay, so yes, moving ahead, as I said, remembering too much data related to fiscal development will be less important